Welcome to Two Robs and a Mike. I'm Rob.
I'm Rob.
I'm Mike.
And this is brought to you by Summit Gear, your trail running shop in the Blue Mountains.
So this week we want to talk about a number of races that have occurred recently, and we'll start off with talking about Hounslow. So that in terms of date order, then Hounslow was first. So we had the marathon and the 17K. I'll just quickly talk about the results. So in the 17K, in the females, we had Sarah Levitt, then Jess Ronan, and then Monica Ludrix. And in the men, we had Ben St. Lawrence, again taking out a win, Andrew Gattenby and Henry Hugman coming in third place. In the marathon on the Saturday, we had Mikey Dimuentes.
I think it's Dimuantes.
Dimuantes?
Dimuantes.
You should know.
That's what I call him. So he hasn't corrected me.
Right.
We're just Mikey Dim. There we go.
Mikey Dim.
Mikey
Right.
Dim, yeah.
Oh, let's cut that. So, in the marathon, in the men, we had Mikey Dim came in first, followed by our own Mike Dunstan, not too far behind, and then Quinton Gill, who came in third place. And Quinton Gill also won the Monster, which is to do both races back to back. So he had the fastest time combined out of all of the people that were competing for that. And in the ladies, we had Jess Jason, Julia Anderson, and Kelly Angel rounding up the podium there.
The only thing I have to say is it kicked my ass so badly. I've not suffered in a race for, I think, forever, as much as I suffered in that run. I can't tell you why, but it was brutal.
Because the course is tough.
Well, the course is tough, and it was so funny. I'm heading up Lockleys, you're flying down, and literally, seriously, about a minute after that encounter, I came up to this death adder sitting in the middle of the track, and it wouldn't get off the track. I had to hit it with my hiking pole to actually get it off the track. And I'm like, Mike just jumped over this, I'm sure. He's literally just... So,
did you see it?
I didn't see it.
Yeah.
No. I was
just like, wow.
I thought it was a rock.
Yeah. And I think about another, I don't know, 300 metres I started cramping. And it just got worse from there.
Oh, goodness.
So it was brutal. And I was, at the end of it, I was super impressed with your time, Mike. It was amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
So tell us about your race day.
Yeah, well, it was actually not that smooth in the lead up. I actually didn't sleep well the 2 nights before at all, which is weird because usually in taper I feel like obviously it's still the brain goes a bit funny and stuff and you worry about things you shouldn't be worrying about. But I just felt calm and relaxed, but I just couldn't sleep. So woke up, I was like, maybe the night before I'll get a good sleep. And I just was awake all night.
Yeah.
So I ended up in the middle of the night, I was like, this is so strange. I didn't think it was like a A race or anything, but it's my body was awake. So I just ended up listening to a body scan at night and just trying to relax. And I woke up with a cranking headache. And then, so I was like, it's a good opportunity to because when I did my warm up, I was like, my body feels great. So it was a good chance to, go and see how it started with the race. But I was a bit nervous before because I was like, brain doesn't feel good.
We can talk about this now because the race is over, so I'm not jinxing you at all. But having been the winner from the previous year, so you can say, it wasn't my A race, but don't you think there'd be a bit of pressure there from that? Just okay, this was my race to lose now because I'd had it. Because I'd won it the previous year.
I think what I actually figured out was putting pressure on me was that I was feeling the fittest I'd ever felt before it. So it was more I wasn't too fussed on what position I'd got, but I just wanted to run quicker than I did last year and just have some sort of forward progress towards next year. Yeah. That was my big goal. I was like, if I do Hounslow, I can try to become better mountain runner before next year. So I was feeling a bit of, I guess, thinking about, I really want to have a good day. I felt like the training block was really smooth. So sometimes when you have a really good training block, you end up going, I've been running fantastic in training and feeling good and recovering well. And then you put a bit much weight on actually performing on the race day. Mm-hmm. So I felt that.
But you did a faster time?
Did, yeah. I think by about It might have been by 15 minutes.
Well, that's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah, I was.
heap.
You should be happy with it.
I was
time to take
chuffed.
off.
Like I finished the race and I was chuffed with the effort and it wouldn't change a thing with regards to the race and it was,
I got to say, Mickey Dim was flying down Lockleys when I saw him. He was really moving.
Yeah, it was insane. So Mikey and I were together until the bottom of Lockleys and then like we moved. I actually tried to catch up. I did have to catch up from the aid station to Mikey on the down, which in hindsight, like, probably didn't help going up Lockleys.
Yeah.
And then, he took off on Lockleys and just started running, and I was in disbelief, and I was just like, whoa. I was like, this is a risky move. Well played. And so I kind of just, like, kept on pacing my pacing strategy and kept going, and I was just like, well, just try to run the fastest race you can. But then we actually, like, fully face slammed each other right near the Pinnacles aid station.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Like he was running up the hill and I was bowling down the hill, and we were only a couple of minutes apart. And I thought he would be just gone. Like I thought he was doing the FKT at Lockleys when he took off. I was like, oh geez. But then I like the gap was like 3 minutes at the top of Lockleys or something, and then it looks like he said he didn't do it fast, but he must have destroyed the downhill. And
he
then
must have jumped over that snake as well.
Yeah. And then to his credit, must have absolutely just like powered up and the road still. So it was
up Perry's, you mean?
Yeah, up Perry's and then the road. So it was just like such an amazing run by Mikey. I was like, wow.
He still looks pretty fresh coming into the finish line at all of you.
Yeah. He was cranking. So it's wicked.
Yeah. Well, I had to get dragged off the top of Perry's. this lady came. It's so humiliating. I was like, I had a really humbling race. It was like, this is the new me now. But it was like, I'm standing at the top of Perry's. There's like 50 stairs to go, and I can't get off them. And I'm just standing there, leaning on my poles. My quads are just cramping like no tomorrow. They're totally locked up. And she said to me, you can't stay there. And I just said, I can't move. And she literally came down, she grabbed me and dragged me up to a flat area. And it took about 10 minutes for my quads.
Was she a spectator or a volunteer? Or?
She had someone in the race. Right. So I think she was a spectator. But to a point, I was standing right in the middle of the stairs. Like there was people trying to get past me and stuff. And I just felt like an idiot. Yeah. But there you go. Humbling.
It's humbling. I stopped stationary twice on Perry's as well. Because it was really warm in the bottom half. I thought I was going to... Just felt really dizzy. I was like, oh, goodness. So Perry's is... I reckon at the end of the Hounslow Mara, Perry's is one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yeah. I was thinking the other day, I was like, I might just go out and sneakily do the course again just to prove that I can do better than what I did. It was so bad.
Sucker for punishment. I wouldn't be doing that.
I thought it'd be good training. Nothing else.
And maybe fuel up differently.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Who knows? Yeah. Sometimes I get into other people's races and I forget to actually just run like how I like to run. So that could be it. I'm never learning. I seem to have the same problem every race I run in. I just get caught up in other people's things, I think.
Need to start learning.
Definitely.
It was pretty insane to see how much quicker all the times were across the men and women 17 and Mara this year. It was really competitive. It was awesome and like crazy that like Jess was based in WA prior to running this and then overtook into first place on the road and such a strong run. But I think there was 8 women within about it must have been I don't want to say the minutes, but it was like incredibly tight, the top 8. Yeah. It was insane, which is really exciting and Jess this time was flying too. Yeah.
She was very humble. She came into the store on Friday before just to get a piece of mandatory gear, and she said that she'd just moved over from WA but was moving to Canberra. And anyway, I can't remember the exact words, but something she said triggered me to say, so you're expecting to do a good time, or perform well or something like that? And she said, oh, yeah, I'm hoping to do well, Then she up and wins it. She could have said, oh, no, I'm hoping to win,
Yeah.
But,
yeah, she's
obviously too humble.
An incredible runner. Yeah. And then I think Sarah won last year again and defended it. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that was cool. And it was just awesome weekend. It was I mean,
was a
really
good
nice
vibe.
to have good weather as well.
Mm.
So
Bit too hot.
it was pretty hot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the tradition. It's that weekend. Hounslow weekend's always hot.
Mm.
And Henry was only just back from UTMB,
From ETC. Yeah.
Chamonix,
Mm.
so yeah, potentially still had a bit of jet lag in his legs.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So well done, Henry.
And Ben knocked the course record by like 6 minutes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Mm.
I can move.
Yeah, it made it look very, very.
So how much of that is people knowing the times from the previous years versus the temperature on the day versus the work that national parks have done on the track?
The course is slightly quicker this year, so it didn't go straight down onto the Pulpit Rock walking track. So, in my opinion, the start was minutes quicker for sure. But I think, it's still an absolutely cranking run.
I think the temperature wouldn't have made that much difference on the shorter course.
Yeah, it was good that day. It was cool.
It was kind of it was nice. It was really just as the day progressed on the Saturday, that it got quite hot, particularly going up Lockleys and Perry's.
Yeah, definitely. That's the hardest thing is that the longer you were out there, it really cranked up and got really hot. And I think, the bottom of the valley, that's what it's unless you've gone down there, you never realise that the bottom of the valley can be 10 degrees or like 5 to 10 degrees hotter than the top.
Yeah. I think it's an interesting question. Like most people, like we're kind of blessed here because we've got a fairly good runner with us. So I've always been curious, like someone that's at the pointy end of the race, like what sort of like just describe roughly the sort of distances and stuff that you were training coming into it. Like you said, you had a good block. Like what were you like? How many kilometers a week? What was your sort of training? What was your approach? Was it to it?
For probably the 6 weeks prior, running between 15 and 20 hours a week.
Yeah,
with up to about.
That's just running.
That's just running.
Right.
Yeah, with about some of the bigger weeks were like up to 9,000 meters of climbing.
Yeah.
I think in hindsight now, there in this block, like I did do a lot more sessions where it was like tempo up something like Vic Falls and then like a tempo or a threshold on the flats as well.
Yeah.
To try to get faster because before Snowdonia, I wasn't doing as much like pointy end speed work stuff. I think looking back, maybe I could have done a few more training runs where I did go out and just run like a more solid, steady long run for a longer period of time. Because that's where I feel like I held a certain intensity and pace for maybe 3.5 hours. And then it wasn't really it was more like that I think I hadn't given my body like the chance to have those conditions in like a race sim or something. Would have been good.
Yeah.
But it was fun for me because it was a very different training block with regards to like training for a mile versus training versus for a marathon is like, although it's a long marathon, so different.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure you need to train that much, but it was also, I enjoy spending a lot of hours out, so it's kind of a bonus. Like I prefer training longer and going really easy on my long days and then do 2 sessions a week where I run quite a lot harder. But my easy day is really easy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Well, that's consistent with all of the current thinking on training programs.
For running.
To get that big differential, like your easy days, make them easy. Don't over fatigue yourself. And then when you go hard, go hard.
Yeah, and I think I have gradually got to that from I used to run too many of my runs like too solid. Like I would be working quite hard aerobically a lot of the time, and I could get away with it living back in WA because it's flat, so you don't really get like the impact of running in the blues where it's like if you're going out and running solid all the time, it's like you're running solid uphill and then the forces of running down stairs and everywhere as well. I think you've got to be a bit more mindful up here or go on a fire trail for a bit. I'm trying to learn that.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for all the steep spots because they're really beautiful. Yeah.
Cool.
So the key message, run your easy runs easy enough so you can run your hard runs hard enough.
Yeah. I always remind myself too that you don't need to run fast all the time to prove to yourself that you're efficient or fit. In the past, like my first race I ever did, I did too much solid running. I think I ran my race before the race.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I think in the weeks leading up, you can just go and plod and then do a session or two and just trust in your fitness. But that took me years and years to to realise. And that's the hardest thing to just say.
For someone who's only been running for a few years.
I know.
It took him years and years. Yeah.
Oh, it did. Well, I used to be always verging on an injury because I just always trying to see, I should be running this pace with this heart rate. And so it's a fun game.
Amazing.
All right.
Cool.
Okay, on the Sunday we had the Running Wild New South Wales Kedumba half. Kate Cush took out the win in the females category.
She just gets better and better.
And faster.
I know.
She's not just doing the really long stuff. She's doing the short course stuff too. Yeah. Eleonora Cade came second, and Joe Nevin in a return to form, back on the podium in third place.
Nice.
In the men, it was Luke Taylor, Simon Coughlin, and Steve Mrakovic came in third. Last weekend we had the Pilliga Ultra. So the Pilliga Ultra out past Coonabarabran in the Pilliga, relatively new race.
Second year?
Second year, I think.
Yeah, it's a beautiful spot to be running.
A whole lot more people came out for that, which was great. Run by For Wild Places are the event organisers for that. And there's 3 races in 3 days. A 10K, then a 50K, then a 20K to finish. And so they also have a Grand Slam where, they had a number of people who competed in or entered to do all 3 over the 3 days. Dan Price came first. Eamon Cunningham came second. He also won the 10K. Tom Payton came third. Clive Van Kappel came fourth. Hannon Loosley came fifth. Tom Donaldson came sixth. So there's a bit of bragging rights going on there in the Run Forever Kedumba running group there with a number of
some good
the
some of
runners.
your customers there.
Yeah, a number of Kedumba Street locals competing well in that, and also so soon after the Far East Climb. So a lot of those guys did a lot of time. I think Eamon, Tom, Tom Donaldson, I'm not sure. I know Clive was there for quite a lot of hours, but I don't know if he did the whole 24. Apologies if he didn't. If he did, sorry. But I can imagine that with some of those guys, it would have been every night. There would have been, all right, what's happening tomorrow? Beck Cook came 7th, and Nicole Hunter came 8th. So they were the only finishers for the Grand Slam there. In the 10K, as I said, Eamon Cunningham came first. Beck Cook took out the win for the females in the 10K. And then in the 20K, we had Tia Boole, who was not only first female but overall winner. I think she was 18 seconds ahead of Nick Adamson. So great performance there as well. So that's it for races. So while Mike was away at Pilliga, we caught up with Dave Stewart, who's the voice of trail running. Certainly voice of trail running in the mountains.
He's pushed back on that name. But I think we'll build him up.
You'll hear some of that chat around that. We opened with that.
Yeah.
could be 2 Robs and a Dave. So
Yeah.
Go away.
Well, it depends. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. We've got our backup. We might see Dave pop in whenever one of us can't make it. Yeah,
Lucky, I love Dave. It's all good.
Yeah, and we talked about the fact we'll be catching up with him again and again before Christmas. So next event we'll be hanging out together will be the Lonely Mountain Ultra out at Orange. That's only a few weeks away.
So Dave's always a good chat, and so here's our interview with Dave. The voice of trail running has joined us, Dave Stewart. You don't like that. We had a discussion the other day, and you didn't like that, but I think it's becoming appropriate with all the events that you're doing around town.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's only just because there's plenty of You're the Voices out there. But I don't mind the tagline of trail running because that's become the niche. So thank you for.
That's right. It's a niche and no one owns it yet. So we got Phil Liggett with cycling.
Correct. Give you the Phil
Bruce
Liggett
McAvaney and Ray Warren.
In Australia, in terms of the Pete Murray of triathlons, if you come from that background, so I'll go with Dave Stewart, the voice of trail running for sure. Let's do it.
Yeah, sweet. Well, we'll just keep referring to you as that.
So Dave, you were up here. You did the Forest Stair climb for MMD, and then straight up with Hounslow. How did you? What were your impressions of those 2 events? Firstly,
Oh, well, I mean, obviously, back up in the mountains, my adopted home. I know you guys are focusing, everything around the mountains, Penrith to Lithgow or beyond. But I can say almost I'm an adopted mountain man, in that my mum lives at Wentworth Falls, but I have spent a fair bit of my life in the mountains. So it was it's always good coming back to the mountains. Obviously, a lot of great trail running events in the mountains, because that's the terrain. That's where we run, and we've got some great runners coming out of that area. Forest Climb for M&D, very different to Hounslow. Hounslow, a second year back in its reincarnation, under the single track banner, and huge this year. Like, we almost quadrupled the numbers back this year. So bigger, better, in the Gross Valley, I believe one of the most underrated valleys in the Blue Mountains. But then previous to that was also the Forest Climb for M&D. Gav Clifton and you guys, and a cast of thousands this year up there for the 24-hour challenge. Again, the second year that Gav's got me back on deck, but not the second year it's been going. But it gets bigger and bigger in that this year it was a 24-hour event. And he, as I said, he pulled people out of the woodwork that the old organisers of the old Sydney climb, like the Tower Climb, and Matty Pryden, and we had Professor Dominic Rowe there, and the guys from Dirt Church Radio across the ditch in New Zealand. So there was heaps of people, lots of fireys, lots of great support, and both very different. Obviously, Forest Climb M&D is a fundraiser for an extremely important cause, and there are so many causes out there in the world these days. But M&D, we learnt a lot from a professor at the opening on the Thursday night, and here we went, up and down Ferber stairs, up and down, up and down, up and down, and
so how do you go about, like, so that was a 24-hour event? That's a long time to be trying to entertain or create a vibe. Like, how do you plan for something like that?
Yeah, and that particular event, it's a bit of a tricky one, because obviously it's a bit of an unknown what's going to happen in between when people are walking up and down. So I wasn't necessarily emceeing the whole time. I almost took on a little bit of a organisational role, in one sense, or a caretaker role up at Scenic World there. But in terms of preparing for that, you can't. Well, you can, but there was no reason to go 24 hours, because I'd be talking to no one at some point. But I guess in prepping for it, to answer your question, to dig down a little bit, Gav we'd been working on this for 2 years. I mean, he'd already locked me in for 2025 before 2024 already started.
Yeah.
So the prep goes into the subject matter. The prep goes into who's involved. The prep goes into things like partners and people that are involved in that. But the way I go about some of that is a bit ad lib, because you can prep all you want, but at the end of the day, it's what's happening at the time that becomes the important part of it. And what in that event, it's the human spirit. I mean, even like the Rob sitting next to you, 24 hours in a moon boot, manning the summit gear tent, because that community means so much to those people. So very different to then something like a race per se.
Yeah, so we had obviously the Hounslow Marathon and half marathon the following weekend. Amazing, as you said, it's an amazing place, it's an amazing spot, but it's brutal. I can officially say I had my worst race ever, as I was cramping well early in that day, and had to get almost dragged off the top of Perry's because of how brutal it was. But somehow it's beautiful as well. But I guess talk us a bit through about how you sort of create the vibe. I mean, you do a great job of it, but the what are you looking for when you when an event's on to create that point of interest and keep the I guess the atmosphere going?
Yeah, Hounslow is a good one because the scenery and the location helps that vibe. Single track also, if I don't mind saying, they love the vibe. They want the vibe. They want the energy. They want the anecdotes. They want to bring it back to the athletes and the competitors and the superhuman spirit that is out there on the day. What I do though, and I've talked about this before, but what I do particularly is you use the props that you got around you. So whether it be the music, whether it be the scenery, whether it be the sunrise. And I'm very lucky now, and I have formed some pretty good relationships, and I'm getting to know a lot of people. I can't remember everyone's names, but I've got to know a lot of people within that community, particularly the Blue Mountains community. And so seeing some really familiar faces rocking up, whether they're rocking up to volunteer or whether they're rocking up to run, is amazing. So there's that part of it. The other part of it is I sat down with the race director, Joe Dorff, the night before, and we knew that we had a red hot field this time around with some really gun runners. Hounslow's back on the map, and so we did a little bit of research, but we don't always get it right. And some of the anecdotes and some of the stories, unfortunately, stick in my head. Quinton Gill's a classic there, in that he's a local mountains guy. He's been on the podium at many other Running Wild events and so on. And for some reason in our conversation, Joe and I had talked about that he was talking a big show. But I have to actually humbly apologise because at no point did he ever say that he was going to come out and win. But for some reason in our script, we got in our head that he said that somewhere he was going to win. And so every time I introduced the guy or he came across the line, because he was the overall monster finisher, I kept on saying in the script that he's been talking up that he was going to win he was going to win the thing. And then he came up to me afterwards. He goes, "When did I say that I was going to actually do this? Because you made me sound like a complete twat." And I quite up myself. And I said, "Oh, Joe and I were just mucking around." He goes, "Yeah, but Joe said you said." And I said, "Don't believe what he said because." And so, look, you can prepare all you want and you can get those things, but you don't always get it right. So here on two Robs and a Mike, I humbly apologise, Quinton. You never said that you were going to win, but well-deserved champion because you did.
Yeah. There's some amazing, so to see the people that backed up after doing the monster was quite impressive. I mean, I run with Lee Shakespeare quite a lot. He just smashed through that and then turned around the next day.
Yeah.
Rocks up again.
I was going to do a shout out to Lee Shakespeare because he did 24 hours at Furber Stairs the weekend before.
Yeah, exactly.
And then backed up and did the monster. That was an awesome effort.
And he did it all so well.
30 reps up and down Furber.
Yeah.
And then he comes in and he's in the top 10 of both races. But then, does very, very well. And he's one of those guys that just humble, loves to run, gets out there and does it. Henry Hugman's another one that I've got to know very, very well. And he came third in the 17K. He's just returned from Chamonix, where he ran ETC. Now he's saying that his time over there wasn't great, but I mean he was the top ranked male Aussie athlete in that ETC.
He told me he had a dirty hamburger before the race, and it sat in his stomach the whole way, and he wants to go back and do it again.
Well, he should. I mean, some people do say, "Why would you go all that way just to run the ETC?" But anyway, that's just maybe
loves the smaller distances.
Yeah,
that's maybe
I keep trying to get him across to the dark side and get him into ultras. And he's now wearing the Prodigios, the Last Petit Prodigio. So he's definitely got the shoes now to go out and do an ultra. So.
Yeah, I saw that that particular shoe or that particular brand was being associated with him. So good on him. He deserves it.
Yeah.
He deserves all of that. So it's guys like that from the mountains that stand up. But then there's the young guns as well. There's a couple of Fergus, just to name a few. I mean, normally at these events, you've got, like the Gosby family. They were absent from both the Forest Climb and also Hounslow this year. I think they've been away on holidays. So
he had a good excuse, Elijah. He was down in Tassie doing the nationals,
there
national
you go.
cross country. So that's why they had a holiday to Tasmania.
But
he did come back. Yeah.
But all of these young guns.
So who was the surprise for the weekend of the Hounslow? You spoke earlier. There was on the female side. You saw a surprise.
Well, there was a couple of surprises. I guess if you look at the marathon in that field, there was when they went out on their first lap, which is basically the 17K course, and they came back through. They went out through the Grand Canyon and they came back through, and there was a lady by the name of Julie Anderson from Townsville in far north Queensland, and she was leading. And she was leading by a long shot, and she had Kelly Angel chasing her down and Jess Jason and a cast of others. In fact, at that point in the women's race, there was 12 minutes separating the top 10 women at that, I guess, 17K or thereabouts. Yeah. When they came back through Allview Escape there is where our race hub was. So incredible. And we just saw it from overseas, if you're following along overseas with some of the results from some of the ladies overseas, but you translate that back down to even in our own backyard now, the results of the women pushing each other and the men, but particularly the women. There is a super strong pedigree coming out of there. In the end, in the female race, in the marathon, Jess Jason, originally from WA, now hailing out of Canberra, running with some of the other Canberra Cowboys, as they like to call themselves. She came out and won it in a time of 5:42, and she only just beat Julie Anderson, by 3 minutes or thereabouts. So incredible event. She was blowing a gasket coming up Perry's Look Down, got to the top. She was told that Julie was not that far in front of her and she could catch her. She didn't believe it at first, but then she caught sight of her and she put it into another gear and she came home and won it. So Jess Jason is definitely a new, well, not new, she's been around for a while, but I guess she's a name to watch there. And then Kelly Angel finished up third, and Kelly Angel, her name is synonymous with trail running around the globe, but also around Australia. And just a note on that, there's a little bit of stuff in social media at the moment. I don't want to get all political on us, but Kelly Angel at the beginning there made a call for all the women to come up to the front and to be represented in that. And that was a real moment for me as an MC, because I was about to go into a whole bunch of banter with Kelly. And then she grabbed the mic off me and got the women to the front. And so now there's a little bit of discussion around that, around the running circle. So I think that's something to keep talking about, because it's extremely relevant that we shouldn't be, the women shouldn't hide behind the male athletes.
We saw that in Germany this year as well. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I've seen that in so many different events recently where female have they've taken out the outright win. And time. So really important. Yeah, really important.
And I think for single track, in the Hounslow event, I think it's a mark of an event that's arrived on the Australian calendar when they're not all local runners. Like we just talked about the top three being WA, Queensland, and Victorian. Yeah. People are coming from all over to compete in that race. So, I think that's
Yeah, as I said, it's great to have these races in our backyard here.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, totally. And obviously there's the big
UTA now.
Yeah, and well, obviously there's the big dance in May. But even that, like we had some folk there from UTA that are very involved, and they had a weekend off, and they came and ran the race. So they were part of it, and so it's great to see. And that's the great thing about trail running. Obviously, people are competing, but there's less ego. It's more community. We're here to learn off each other. And if there is ego, well, we need to, focus on where the ego isn't, basically. But What I love about the mountains, particularly, is there was other events on the weekend. Of course, there was other events on in Sydney, and there was other events on down Royal National Park, and then even in the Blue Mountains. Trail running is just booming, and it's great to be a part of it. And there's plenty to go around, so it's a good thing.
For sure. So, what have you got coming up for for the rest of the year? What's the big events that you've got, or maybe the not so big events?
Well, I'm doing something a little different this coming weekend. I'm involved with the Sydney Marathon.
Yeah.
So that'll be different. It's a good opportunity, and 25,000 people running down here, and obviously the Sydney Marathon vying to become one of the Abbott's World Champion or World Series runs. So pretty exciting. In your neck of the woods, or not far from your neck of the woods, which does attract a lot of Blue Mountains folks, is Lonely Mountain coming up on the long weekend in the middle of the school holidays.
You'll be there at Lonely Mountain?
I'll be at Lonely Mountain. They've got a great thing happening out there, great community. And again, some of their guys were at Hounslow the other night. And so they've introduced a miler this year. So I think there's still entries open out there. Got a few other things, got a few other single track events coming up later in the year. The back end of November gets very busy because we go back to another spectacular mountain range in Victoria, it being the Grampians for the GPT 100. It was an inaugural year last year. We're back this year. And again, that's another event now that's attracting global recognition. Because it's a very unique miler. You can do it as a stage race, you can do it as a relay, or you do it as a solo A to B, and it's 99.9% single track and extremely technical, and being an A to B. So that is unreal. I was involved in that last year, and I can't wait to get back down there this year. And then, of course, the other UTMB race, Cozzy. I'm going back to back. I've got 2 days in between. That's late November, but I've got a bunch on in October as well, and a few other bits and pieces.
So plenty to keep you occupied.
Something like that.
Yeah, Dave, you're going to get sick of seeing my face. You just mentioned a few things that I'm going to be at as well. So.
Yeah, likewise.
I'm not going to Cozzy this year, but...
Well, I'll meet you at Cozzy. I'll be there at Cozzy. So,
all right.
So between the two of us, we'll have him covered.
But there's, and that's
shout the beers from your end, that's for sure.
Okay, no worries. I am donning the Capital Brewing cap. Anyway, we're not here for endorsements. It is good. There's other alternatives, and there's other options to get out there, whether it be training runs or what's happening. But there's so much happening in the mountains, and we've chatted about
that. Everyone needs to turn up to the Summit Gear Sunday long run.
Yeah.
We're going to move up and down the mountains over the next coming Sundays and just explore different parts of the beautiful mountains that we live in.
All right, and that's what it's.
You're going to come and join us?
I'll get up there for one. Yeah, for sure. I've got my own little local trail crew that we're next weekend. We're going to go out to Lane Cove National Park there as part of Coogee Run Club, but. That's the thing. There's so much going on. There's so many groups and individuals doing things that you can never go anywhere these days without bumping into someone you know. And as the unofficial or official voice of trail running, that's one thing I do love about running in the mountains now is you can be running up, whether it be running up Kedumba or running up Furber or even out. Out there in the gross, and you're going to bump into someone that you know, and that's what's really, really cool about the community for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Dave, how did you get involved or start, getting involved in emceeing trail running races?
Basically because I talk a lot.
Well, you've always done that. Actually, a lot of people won't know that you and I go back a long way. We first we went to high school together.
We absolutely did go to high school together. I will point out that you're a few years ahead of me.
Yeah, true. In more ways than one.
Yeah, we do. We have it. And that's, again, talk about community and life coming full circle. Even you taking over Summit Gear there, and I was repping at the time.
That's right.
And
You oversold me on a whole lot of jackets that it took me about 6 months to clear out.
well, that's why I'm good at talking.
Yeah,
I
I
think
hear
I
you.
even helped. You showed me that building there, and even the safe which you were going to turn into a change room,
Mm.
and then I even helped. I think I even put a little bit of the flooring in. And I remember saying at one point, "Whatever you do, don't overfill your store." Well,
Didn't hold to that.
you became
I just need a bigger store.
part of a buying group, so then maybe that was the problem. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
to answer your question quickly, I I in the early years, I actually didn't run UTA in the early years when it was actually called the North Face, but I knew Tom and Alina, who were the founders of that race. I'd done some events with them through some other brands that I'd worked for. And been involved. So I've been in and around Tom and Alina and what they've been doing, whether it be running, but they actually started out in adventure racing, and mountain biking was more their thing, and that was what I was doing back down then. It was more mountain biking. Anyway, it was 1 year, and I was up at Queen Victoria Hospital there for the start of the 22. I actually wasn't running because I was injured, and it was the start there. It was one of the old starts, and there was a gentleman there that I have accredited to this before, but his name's Matty Abel, quite a established and well-known person in the running circles. He's a co-founder of Capra app, which is used for many of the different trail running apps. Anyway, he was doing a bit of emceeing at the time, or he'd stepped into that role, or they'd asked him to do it. And I went up to him after he sent everyone away, and I went, "I want your job." And he's like, "You can have it." Anyway, and I've told that story before, but I then pestered Tom a little bit and went, if there's ever an opportunity to get on the talking stick, I'd love to do it. And so I'd been doing a lot of presenting and emceeing in other areas. I present film festivals. Some people may know me in the mountains from presenting Banff Mountain Film Festival and Radical Reels, just to name a few. I've been doing that for almost 12 years. I presented back in the day. I was involved with emceeing a little bit of the rock climbing gigs that were happening up in the mountains back a long time ago when I was working for some of the brands that were involved in that. So it was a bit over 4 years ago. So yeah, probably coming up in 5 years. I finally got the opportunity to be involved at UTA, and it was Tom and Alina's last official year. And so the new owners were there, and obviously the new event organisers were there, and but it was a crossover. And so I worked with the great Kerry Suter and also Ben Berryman, and there was three of us, and that was my first year. And so since then I've been able to build that, and I've got a long way to go. Got a long way to go. I want to make.
You got a gig with the Glowworm as well somehow.
I did get a gig with a Glowworm. So that was what I was going to say. There was two rat bags, Robin Shaw and Tony Williams. And again, I've been involved with Tony Williams and yourself, Rob, with all your events. Glowworm was a great opportunity. And it was only because I think, again, there was an opportunity there to grab a microphone and talk about trail running. But those events, I love those events, particularly Glowworm, particularly some of what is happening in some of those more grassroots events. They're the best events. They can be a little bit rustic. They don't have to be too slick. So my ad-libbing is fine. And if I get someone's name wrong, it's okay. Or a sponsor's name wrong, it's okay.
Yeah. Well, we love your work, Dave. And it's always a joy turning up to those events and hear your booming voice going over the microphone. It certainly makes me feel like I'm at the start of a race. So, love your work. Thanks for joining. Anything else?
Well, I was going to say it was a bit scary at the Gross Valley there the other day, because when they were over at the Pinnacles on the other side and Lockley's Pylon, apparently they could hear my voice from across the valley.
I could hear your voice as I was cramping on my way up, and I was thinking, "There's no way I can get back to where Dave is." That's what I was trying to work out, how I was actually going to get back across without dying.
No, I heard some people were saying, "Oh, it can't be that far away."
Yeah, that's right. And it
I
wasn't.
can hear his voice. It's just over there.
Yeah.
Well, we had the speakers turned the right way. Let's just say we had the speakers turned the right way. No, fellas, I know Dunstan's not here, and he obviously had a bit of a ding-dong battle with Mikey Dimuantis over the weekend, but great. I love what you're doing. You guys are ingrained in that mountain community now, in the upper mountains, shall we say. But definitely there's a great community in and around what you guys are doing, and so thank you so much for the opportunity to be, what are we, third episode in?
Yeah,
Third
episode 3. Yep,
And I reckon there might be a few more where I might cameo if I.
that'll be good. Yeah, we'd love to have you.
We'll get your updates from time to time as the seasons progress.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. All right, Dave. Well, take care and catch you at the next event.
Yeah, see you on the trails, as they say.
Yep. All right. See ya.
See ya.
Summit Gear Sunday long run. So
Yeah, we did the narrow neck sort of recovery session on Sunday. It was well turned out again. We ended up at the cafe up here, so a few of us kicked on to have some extra coffees and cakes afterwards, which was nice. But we've got this Sunday coming up. We're going to start at Queen Vic Hospital, 7 a.m. Down to Kedumba Campground, across the Mount Solitary Trail, and then down Solitary. For anyone that's really feels like it, they could go up and go to the coal, but most of us are just probably going to turn right at that intersection and head back down Solitary along the single track till we get back onto the
Sublime Ridge,
and then
head back up.
You can just pace yourself back up the hill. So plenty of elevations, good downhill training. I think it's 9 k's of downhill down to the campground. It's great, it's awesome. And it's the first time I ran it about a week ago, or this week actually, and that Singer Trail's beautiful along there. Yeah, it's just gorgeous. So so come and join us. It'll be a good hit out. I think it'll take somewhere between, I'm guessing, 2.5 to 3.5 hours. Plenty good training to be had out there.
Yeah, it's an awesome trail.
Yep. So all the details for that will be on our on the website, on Summit Gear's website under the Summit Gear Run Club tab. So we'll have the GPX file.
There's a GPX file there now.
It's already there. Great.
The GPX file. We've got the pin for where the start of the event is. We've got the rating of the technical and the effort required, and an estimated time. So it's all on the website.
What did you pop the technical rating for?
I think I did a 3 out of 5 because there's a lot of. I mean, it's half fire trail, it's half single track.
Well, it's predominantly fire trail, though, isn't it?
No,
more so
it's actually quite
track.
a bit. It's quite a bit of single track. Like, you're going quite a bit on the single track.
There's probably at least like 7 k's or 8 k's of rocky, like narrow single track.
Yeah, and that part can be like coming down Solitary can be a little bit technical, but it's not as bad as Lockley's,
and it's not steep.
No,
it's not too steep.
Not that part. The very top of Solitary is steep, but not that part. It's actually quite reasonable.
It depends on which option you go for.
Yeah,
if you're going up the East Cole, then it's more technical.
That's 5 out of 5.
That's 5 out of 5.
But if you're just turning at the camp,
but the GPX file won't take you up the top of the Cole. So I rated it based on the GPX file.
I had an amazing stack at the top of Solitary recently. I was coming down, and you know when your shoes are just like
coming down the east. Past the logbook.
And it had just been like, I think it had rained recently, but then it dried out on top, so it was like real skatey. And I just was coming down following my housemate Jeremy, and I knew that my shoes were on the way out, and I should have been wearing a different pair with more lugs. And there's this one part where like you turn sharp left, and there's this pretty solid tree, and I just slipped straight away, and my legs went either side of the tree, and I just fully straight into
pancaked it.
Yeah. It was unbelievable. I got so lucky.
Memorable.
Yeah, but the top part of Solitary is exhilarating, and some days it's great if you're in the right headspace, and then other days you're like, what am I doing up here? Yeah, it's fun.
Well, we'll look forward to a good turnout on Sunday, and there is also, it's useful to know at the campground there are some toilets there. So 9 k's into the run, there's some toilets.
Yeah, and good water there too. Yep. Good water storage at the right next to the old homestead.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, it's Well, last time I was down there, it was crystal.
And you'll
clear
get your
water.
feet wet as you cross the river.
Yep.
So have good training shoes.
Yeah.
We saw wild horses down there the other day.
Yeah, right.
Well, not the other day. the other
Actually, when I did the run, there was these kangaroos just sitting right on the track, and they weren't moving. And I ran right up to them. And they just sort of
Yeah,
stand there.
even
Very
during
tame.
the Kedumba half, like previous Kedumba halves, I didn't go down this year, but in previous iterations of the race, they're on the track as, there's 150 people coming down.
Pounding past, yeah.
Yeah. Last thing on the Sunday long run, we did have a good turnout, and it was more admirable because it was 2 degrees when we started the run. It was
so
very cold. So well done everyone who turned up for that. And it was it was really it turned out. I mean, it was a beautiful sunny run, but it was cold. Yeah. I kept my beanie on the whole time.
Yeah, my gloves stayed on.
I didn't have gloves, but I certainly kept my beanie on it, and I had 3 layers on, including a thermal. So
It's good to see you back out on the trails, Rob, with your boot off and your running shoes on.
Oh, you're running?
We're running and walking, but yeah.
I go away for a couple of days.
The training for the mile has started.
Oh, there we go. I go away for a few days and Rob's running around the mountains.
Yeah,
Well, I did say I'll turn up and I'll just walk a few. I'll just go and walk out for a couple of Ks and walk back, and ended up running with the tail runners, and ended up doing 13 Ks. So
nice.
it's a bit more than maybe would have been prescribed. But anyway.
Foot feels fine?
Yeah, the foot was really good even today, but my legs know that I've done something that I hadn't done for a while. For many weeks. So, quite sore in a number of places.
Yeah.
But, it's all good.
Oh, well, we can start our
Coming back,
competitions now.
Let's do it next week.
Well, it's still 4
Well, he's
kilos
hopping
over.
around.
Harry's all out. Down, actually.
That's right. Down would be harder.
Well, I got a new pair of shoes that I haven't, trail
well.
shoes that I haven't, broken out of the box yet.
Well.
So, I might get them out.
Get them out.
Yeah.
Crack new shoes, new foot,
Yep.
New Rob.
new Rob. Let's go.
Wow. We were going to update you on any new park closures, but it doesn't really look like too many things have changed. Most notable one is that the giant stairway is still closed.
I did get caught out by, it's small, but between Elysian Rock and Olympic Rock, that was open for a bit there. And anyway, it's all fenced off again now. So I don't know why. Maybe there's some landslide action, or they're doing more track work or something. But it was looking pretty good. So anyway, that part's closed again.
Yeah. And then I also read it's probably maybe a little bit less visited, but there was some notices about mountain banks as well.
Nice.
All right, so that's it for us for episode 3 of 2 Robs and a Mic. Thank you for joining us. Like, subscribe, follow, share, tell your friends, tell your family, play it in the car. It'll be good. Yeah. All right, and catch you next time.
See you on the trails.